Chapter 4, Reincarnational Drama.
Your own environment includes far more than you may have supposed. Earlier, I referred to your environment in terms of the daily physical existence and surroundings with which you are currently connected. You are aware very little of your larger, more extensive environment. Consider your present self as an actor in a play. Hardly a new analogy, but a suitable one. The scene is set in the 20th century. You create the props, the settings, the themes. In fact, you write, produce, and act in the entire production, you and every other individual who takes part. You are so focused on your roles, however, so intrigued by the reality that you have created, so entranced by the problems, challenges, hopes, and sorrows of your particular roles that you have forgotten are of your own creation. This intensely moving drama, with all its joys and tragedies, can be compared with your present life, your present environment, both individually and en masse. But there are other plays going on simultaneously, in which you also have a part to play. These have their own scenery, their own props. They take place in different periods of time. One may be called life in the 12th century AD. One may be called life in the 18th century, or in 500 BC, or in AD 3000. You also create these plays and act in them. These settings also represent your environment, the environment that surrounds your entire personality. I am speaking of the portion of you who is taking part in this period piece. However, and that portion of your entire personality is so focused within this drama that you are not aware of the others in which you also play a role. You do not understand your own multidimensional reality. Therefore, it seems strange or unbelievable when I tell you that you live many existences at one time. It is difficult for you to imagine being in two places at once, much less or more times or centuries. Now, stated simply, it, if you prefer me, is not a series of moments. The words that you speak, the acts that you perform, appear to take place in time, as a chair or table appears to take up space. These appearances, however, are a part of the complicated props that you have set up beforehand. And within the play, you must accept these as real. 4 o'clock in the afternoon is a very handy reference. You can say to a friend, "I will meet you at 4 o'clock at the corner," or at a restaurant, for a drink or a chat or a meal, and your friend will know precisely where and when he will find you. This will happen despite the fact that 4 o'clock in the afternoon has no basic meaning, but is an agreed-upon designation, a gentleman's agreement, if you prefer. If you attend the theater at 9 o'clock in the evening, but the actions of the play take place in the morning hours, and the actors are shown to eat breakfast, you accept the time as given within the theater's play. You also pretend that it is morning. Each of you is now involved in a much larger production, in which you all agree on certain basic assumptions that serve as a framework within which the play can occur. The assumptions are that time is a series of moments one after another, that an objective world exists quite independently of your own creation and perception of it, that you are bound within the physical bodies that you have done, and that you are limited by time and space. Other assumptions accepted for the same reason include the idea that all perception comes through your physical senses. In other words, that all information comes from without, and that no information can come from within. You therefore are forced to focus intensely upon the actions of the play. Now these various plays, these creative period pieces represent what you would call reincarnation lives. They all exist basically at one time. Those who are still involved in these highly complicated passion play seminars called reincarnation existences find it difficult to see beyond them. Some, resting between productions, as it were, try to communicate with those who are still taking part, but they themselves are merely in the wings, so to speak, and can only see so far. The plays seem to be taking place one before the other, and so these communications seem to intensify the false idea that time is a series of moments, passing in a single line from some inconceivable beginning to some equally inconceivable end. This leads you to think in terms of very limited progress both in individual terms and in terms of your species. You think, those of you who have even considered reincarnation, well, certainly the race must have progressed from the time of the Middle Ages, although you greatly fear it has not, or you turn to technological progress and say, at least we have come a long way in that direction. You may smile and think to yourself that it is quite difficult to imagine a Roman senator addressing the multitudes through a microphone, for example, his children, watching his performance on television. But all of this is highly misleading. Progress does not exist in the terms that you consider it to, any more than time does. In each play, both individually and en masse, different problems are set up. Progress can be measured in terms of the particular ways in which those problems were solved or not solved. Though I use the analogy here of a drama, these plays are highly spontaneous affairs in which the actors have full freedom within the play's framework. And granting these assumptions that have been stated, there are no rehearsals. There are observers, as you will see later in our book. As in any good theater production, there is an overall theme within each play. The great artists, for example, did not emerge out of a particular time simply because they were born into it, or the conditions were favorable. The play itself was concerned with the actualization of intuitive truth into what you would call artistic form, with creativity of such vast and sweeping results that it would serve to awaken latent abilities within each actor and to serve as a model of behavior. Progress has nothing to do with time, you see, but with psychic and spiritual focus. Each play is entirely different from any other. It is not correct, therefore, to suppose that your actions in this life are caused by a previous existence, or that you are being punished in this life for crimes in a past one. Life is simultaneous. Your own multidimensional personality is so endowed that it can have these experiences and still retain its identity. It is, of course, affected by the various plays in which it takes place. There are instant communication and an instant, if you prefer, feedback system. These plays are hardly without purpose. In them, the multidimensional personality learns through its own actions. It tries out an endless variety of poses, behavior patterns, attitudes, and changes others as a result. The word result, you see, automatically infers cause and effect, the cause happening before the effect, and this is simply one small example of the strength of such distortions, and of the inherent difficulties involved with verbal thought, for it always implies a single-line delineation. You are the multidimensional self who has these existences, who creates and takes part in these cosmic passion plays, so to speak. It is only because you focus on this role now that you identify your entire being with it. You have set these rules for yourself for a reason, and consciousness is in a state of becoming. And so this multidimensional self of which I speak is not a psychological structure completed and done with. It is also in a state of becoming. It is learning the art of actualization. It has within its infinite sources of creativity, unlimited possibilities of development. But it has yet to learn the means of actualization and must find within itself ways to bring into existence those untold creations that are within it. Therefore, it creates varieties of conditions in which to operate and sets challenges. And all of this is done with great spontaneity and unbounded joy. You therefore create far more environments than you realize. Now, each actor, going about the role, focused within the play, has an inner guideline. He is not left, therefore, abandoned within a play that he has forgotten in his own creation. He has knowledge and information that comes to him through what I call the inner senses. He has other sources of information, therefore, than those strictly given within the confines of the production. Each actor knows this instinctively, and there are periods set and allowed for within the play itself in which each actor retires to refresh himself. In these he is informed through the inner senses of his other roles, and he realizes that he is far more than the self appearing in any given play. In these periods he understands that he has his hand in the writing of the play, and he is freed from those assumptions that bind him while he is actively concerned with the drama's activities. These periods, of course, coincide with your sleep states and dreaming conditions. But there are also other times when each actor sees quite clearly that he is surrounded by props, and when his vision suddenly pierces the seeming reality of the production. This does not mean that the play is not real, or that it should not be taken seriously. It does mean playing a role, an important one. Each actor must of himself realize, however, the nature of the production and his part in it. He must actualize himself out of the three-dimensional confines of the play's setting. There is great cooperation behind such momentous productions, and in playing his role, each actor first actualizes himself within three-dimensional reality. The multidimensional self cannot act within three-dimensional reality until it materializes a portion of itself within it. During its three-dimensional existence, it has helped others in ways that they could not otherwise be helped, and it has benefited and developed in ways that would be impossible otherwise. The meaning of the play is within you. Therefore, it is only the conscious portion of you that acts so well, and that is focused so securely within the props of the production. The purpose of any given life is available to you. The knowledge beneath the surface of the conscious self you know. All kinds of hints and clues are also available. You have the knowledge of your entire multidimensional personality at your fingertips. When you realize that you do, this knowledge allows you to solve the problems or meet the challenges you have set quicker, in your terms, and opens further areas of creativity by which the entire play or production can be enriched. To the extent, therefore, that you allow the intuitions and knowledge of the multidimensional self to flow through the conscious self, to that extent not only do you perform your role in the play more effectively, but also you add new energy, insights, and creativity to the entire dimension. Now it seems to you, of course, that you are the only conscious part of yourself, for you identify with the actor in this production. The other portions of your multidimensional personality, in these other reincarnation plays, are also conscious, however, and because you are a multidimensional consciousness, you are also conscious in other realities beside these. Your multidimensional personality, your identity, the real you, is conscious of itself, as itself, in any of these roles. By the very nature of consciousness, it seeks to materialize itself in as many dimensions as possible, to create from itself new levels of awareness, new offshoots. Reality, therefore, is always in a state of becoming. Certain aspects of your own consciousness could be fulfilled in no other way. When you think of reincarnation, you suppose a series of progressions. Instead, the various lives grow out of what your inner self is. They are not thrust upon you by some outside agency. Your consciousness then takes many forms, and these forms need not be alike anymore. Say, then a caterpillar is like a butterfly. The soul or entity has complete freedom of expression. It forms environments like stage settings and worlds to suit its purposes. Each setting brings forth new developments. The soul or entity is highly individualized spiritual energy. It forms whatever body you now wear, and is the motive power behind your physical survival. Consciousness can never be still, but seeks further creativity. The soul, therefore, or entity, endows three-dimensional reality, and the three-dimensional self with its own properties. The abilities of the entity lie within the three-dimensional self. In learning to use these potentials, the three-dimensional self becomes more than it knows. The soul or entity then gives breath to the body and to the three-dimensional self within it. The three-dimensional self then goes about its purpose of opening new areas of creativity. Entities or souls send out portions of themselves to open up avenues of reality that would not exist otherwise. You are learning to be co-creators. You are learning to be gods as you now understand the term. You are learning responsibility, the responsibility of any individualized consciousness. You are learning to handle the energy that is yourself for creative purposes. You will be bound to those you love and those you hate, though you will learn to release and lose and dissipate the hatred. You will learn to use even hatred creatively and to turn it to the higher ends, to transform it finally into love. The settings in your physical environment, the sometimes lovely paraphernalia, the physical aspects of life as you know it, are all camouflages. Yet these camouflages are composed of the vitality of the universe. The rocks and stones and mountains and earth are living camouflage, interlocking psychic webs formed by minute consciousnesses. The atoms and molecules within them have their own consciousness. Even the actor is not entirely three-dimensional, however. Within him, there are methods of perception that allow him to see through the camouflage settings, to see beyond the stage. He uses these inner senses constantly, though the actor part of himself is so intent upon the play that this escapes him. In a large manner, the physical senses form the physical reality they seem to only perceive. They are like lenses over your natural inner perceptions that force you to see an available field of activity as physical matter, and so they can be relied upon only to tell you what is happening in a superficial manner. You can, however, use your inner senses, perceive reality as it exists apart from the play and your role in it. To do this, you must, momentarily at least, turn your attention away from the constant activity that is taking place. Turn off the physical senses, as it were, and switch your attention to those events that have escaped you earlier. Your real environment is composed of your thoughts and emotions, for from these you form not only this reality, but each reality in which you take part. Your real environment is innocent of space and time as you know them. In your real environment, you have no need for words, for communication is instantaneous. The inner senses will allow you to perceive the reality that is independent of physical form. I will ask you all to momentarily forsake your roles therefore, and to try this simple exercise. Now, pretend that you are on a lighted stage, the stage being the room in which you now sit. Close your eyes and pretend that the lights have gone out. The setting has disappeared and you are alone. Imagine as vividly as you can the existence of inner senses. Clear from your mind all thoughts and worries. Very gently listen, not to physical sounds, but to sounds that come through the inner senses. Images may begin to appear. Do this simple exercise for a few moments before sleep or in a resting state. 10 minutes a day to begin with is quite sufficient. Now, the information in this book is being directed to some extent through the inner senses of the woman who is in trance as I write it. Such endeavor is the result of highly organized inner precision and of training. Robert could not receive the information from me. It could not be translated nor interpreted while she was focused intensely on the physical environment. So, the inner senses are channels that provide communication between various dimensions of existence. Yet, even here the information must be distorted to some extent as it is translated into physical terms. Otherwise, it would not be perceived at all. I have spent some time emphasizing the fact that each of us forms our own environment, because I want you to realize that the responsibility for your life and your environment is your own. If you believe your environment to be objective and independent of yourself, then you largely feel powerless to change it. You are not under a sentence placed upon you for original sin by any childhood events or by past life experience. You are not under a pall placed upon your psyche, either by original sin, Freud's infancy syndrome, or past life influences. Time is not closed, however, it is open. One life is not buried in the past, disconnected from the present self and any future self as well. As I explained earlier, the lives or the plays are happening at once. Creativity and consciousness are never linear achievements. In each life you choose and create your own settings or environments. And in this one you choose your parents and whatever childhood incidents that came from your experience. You wrote the script. Like a true absent-minded professor, the conscious self forgets all this. Before this book is done, I hope to show you precisely how you create each minute of your experience. By the end of our book, however, I hope you will realize the eternal validity of your own consciousness and the impermanence of those physical aspects of your environment and of your universe that now seems so secure.
Perception is creation. Thanks for bringing these images to life. Like and follow to explore together.